Today we talk about poker as a battle for information. And the first step in that battle is the gathering of information. It's all about paying attention to your opponents. You've got to pay attention. It's commandment number 4 of the 10 commandments of winning poker. Thou shalt pay attention. And if you're not paying attention and then taking that information that you're gathering from that focused attention in your game, you're really doing yourself a disservice and you're probably never going to be a winning player. If you are gathering that information, however, and if you're really striving and spending the time to see what your opponents are doing and trying to pick up on their tells and their betting tells and bet sizes and stack sizes and their mental states of mind and all that good stuff, well, you're way ahead of most of the players you're going to play at small and micro stakes games. So poker's a game of incomplete information. So let's start gathering that information. To another episode of Exceptional Poker. I am playing some more $25 zone. I got some email from some folks that said they liked it. I also got some other email from some other people that said they wanted to see some regular cash games, not the zone format, at $25. So that's absolutely in the queue for upcoming episodes, sessions that I want to play. But kind of in the interest of time today, this was a bad call. I should have re-raised. This is a re-raise or fold situation. I probably have the best hand, unless he, spiked ace-7 here or something crazy like that. I got to be a little wary of the spades, and there are some straighty kind of things with 2-3 and hands like that. So I'm going to go ahead and re-raise here. I'm re-raising for value. I think I have the best hand. That was just a badly played hand. I should have re-raised pre-flop and then played a post-flop game. So that has to do with me just logging in here and jumping into a game without actually preparing very well to play. Anyway, I have very little bit of time to actually play today. I've got 25, 30 minutes or so. Okay, so it's hard to put any of these guys on an ace because they just called. Now, if they do come along, so this is one of those one and done things. This is a pretty dry board. Nobody's got a 3. Maybe somebody's got a pair that might see one street with me. If they've got an ace, a weak ace, they're going to come along, or a stronger ace, they're going to re-raise me. So I got to watch this guy right here. A little weird. I've got the gut shot here. I think I'm just basically done with this hand. If I was heads up, I probably would fire a second barrel. But the fact that I've got 2 guys that called on that ace high board, a little bit scary. Now, anybody with a pair is not going to fold at all. It's that, I think it's called the Beluga theorem, which is nobody ever folds a full house. So if somebody's got a pair of deuces here, they're sticking around. So me firing another bullet there isn't going to do any good. So this guy stuck around with 6s, and he stuck around with a weak ace. So we had the third best hand there, and that's why we kind of gave up on after the flop, after our flop C bet. It's just too likely when you are multi-way for somebody to have a piece of the board if they're both coming along to your bet. So be more inclined, I guess, is the rule here, or the lesson here is be more inclined to do a one and gun C bet when you're multi-way. So yeah, that's life. It's again, I want to go back and review that session, that hand, and look at it a little more closely, and putting players on ranges and getting a little bit smarter. So here's ace jack on the button. We've got a limper. He's a big stack, which is a little bit concerning. Suspiciously like a double up stack size, like he had one big double up. And if it checks to me, I'm definitely firing here again. But again, here we go. We're multi-way. The advantage here, we're in position. So we're going to take this shot every time practically. Pretty hard for somebody to continue without a club. The fact that he didn't re-raise there tells me he probably doesn't have a flush, but may have a flush draw. I'm going to fire again. And he can't continue unless he's got two clubs. So that's one of those that you've got to keep firing. You got to trust your read. I put him on a flush draw, and maybe something else. He clearly could have had something else, but very likely he had a small piece of that flop and a flush draw, and was hoping for a fourth club to come in. Maybe the ace of clubs was in his hand there. So when it didn't come in on the river, pretty much have to fire there, and that's a bet fold situation for sure. If he re-raises us, we're running for the hills basically. Excuse me. So it's Friday afternoon. I actually got a newsletter out, or a pseudo newsletter, what I'm calling the 4 Bullet Friday email to the subscriber list. It's been like 3 or 4 weeks since I've done that. It's pretty not happy with myself for that. I wanted to make that a priority, and it just got shoved down in the queue. So, but I did manage to get up early this morning. This feels like a steal to me, so we're going to re-raise. And again, we're kind of one and doneing here on this. We've got a pretty weak ace. I'm going to fire again, and this is my one and done. So if he comes along or re-raises us, we're giving up. Oh, the fact that it paired here, actually I'm going to take another stab at it. That's like the one card in the deck that I can rep here. And the fact that there's 2 of them out on the board now makes it combinatorically, or using combinations and blockers, that much less likely he's got a jack in his hand. It's a little counterintuitive, but the fact that there's 2 on board means that there's less combos of jacks that he could have in his hand. Let's say he's calling there, just hypothetically, with king jack, queen jack, and jack 10 or something like that. Well, pre-flop, there's every jack in the deck. All 4 jacks are in those hands, so there's lots of combinations of each one of those types of hands. There's queen, jack of diamonds, queen, jack of clubs, queen, jack of hearts, and so on, and the same with king, jack, and so on. The minute one of them comes out, well, one of those jacks goes away, and the minute the second one comes out, then there's only 2 jacks left in there. So combinatorically speaking, from a combinations point of view, the jacks in his hand drop. And again, it's a little hard to describe on video here, and maybe what I need to do is work out some math and do a quick video showing you how that works. But in fact, I might actually, if I recall, I might have a blog post on this that, if so, I'll link below in the show notes here on YouTube. But the point is the more jacks come out, the less likely it is that he's got a jack in his hand. Now, you've got to temper that reasoning with the fact that he's coming along on a jack high board. So he's on a draw, or he's got a jack, or he's got something better than a jack. And you've got to factor that into your decisions there. But in that particular situation, a second barrel firing makes a lot of sense to do. So again, I'll try to link to a blog post that I did a while ago on combos, and I'm not, to be honest, I can't remember if I went into that much detail on how that particular type of situation works, but that'll get you started on it. And in any case, I'll try to do a future video that makes this a little clearer. So it's Friday. The wife is out for another 20-30 minutes. I've got a little bit of time to play before she and I are heading out. We have a standing weekly medical appointment with my daughter that we hit every Friday that we go to. And then we do our weekly shopping and all that good stuff. We usually have a Netflix movie or something we're going to watch. It's a Friday night. It's a good way when you've been married over 30 years, how you spend your Friday evenings. You don't go out clubbing like we used to do when we were dating. Instead, it's nights in, and they're pretty good. So, okay, king queen suited in early position. This is absolutely merits a hand that merits an open raise, and we'll see what happens. So it's as I said, Friday, and I am going to I'm going to see about this. Got a big weekend planned working. We're going to go ahead and drain our pool. Uh, hmm. I think I'm done with this hand, frankly. Um, you could argue for a second barrel on this one because it's a weird board that probably didn't hit this guy's range. I'm done. He could have an ace, ace high, and is just calling us, yeah, pair of eights. There's too likely that he's got enough of a hand and enough equity that he's not going away, and that's a little bit of good money after bad, firing a second or third barrel. So giving up there is the right play. So anyway, we're in early April. It's already starting to get warm outside. I live in southern Arizona, where it's pretty warm, downright hot in the summers. And we're one of those folks that has a swimming pool in the backyard. We've had it for, 18 years, 17, 18 years now. And it's time for some pretty serious maintenance on it. I probably should have. I see bet 85 cents here. I just kind of blindly hit the pot button. I probably should have bet a little bit less than that. But good news now is we've got top pair, probably the best hand we're going to bet for value, and to try to build a pot, get him to call with a worse hand than ours. That's what we're doing there. Anyway, it's been a while since I've done some major service on the pool. I've got to replace the sand in the sand filter. I've got some minor leaks in the pump setup that need to be replaced. I need to fix, but the most important thing is I'm going to drain the pool. I've got some plaster repair I got to do. Going to try acid washing it and see how that works, and then refill it and get it going again. So kind of looking forward to getting the pool dusted off, if you will, for lack of a better way to say it, and start using it here within a month or so as the temperatures start to climb here in sunny, hot Tucson, Arizona. So this is a strange open size, 58 cents. Yeah, I'm not going to defend or anything, but it's just kind of curious what he's got here. Usually you see 50 cent, 75, or pot 85 cent for open bet sizes. So that was one that he manually typed into the box, or I guess you can slide the slider and pick that, but he purposefully chose that bet size. And I would, if this were a regular table, a regular cash game table, and we were seeing multiple hands with this guy, 100, 200 hands with him, I would really pay attention to that and see. That's one of those, things where my antenna goes up and I start to pay attention to a player's bet sizing. Was that just a misclick or some weird thing that he did with the slider bar? Is that bet size indicative of his hand strength? Is it, does he put in weirdo bet sizes when he's stealing the blinds, like that one felt and smelled like? You don't know until you've seen, many hands against an opponent. But when you see something like that, kind of doesn't look like a normal, quote unquote, normal bet size or open raise size from a player, start paying attention to them. See what the heck that means. I can't tell you what 58 cent open from the button means for that particular player. But after maybe 45 minutes or an hour of playing with him at a regular table, I probably can tell you what that means. And you should be able to do the same. You should be paying attention to that and noting those sorts of things. Bet sizing tells at the micro stakes, at the small and micro stakes, are huge leaks in not many, but a significant fraction of the players that you play against, significant leaks in their games. And when you notice them, it's really profitable. It's like, here we go again with my rounders discussion. I don't know why that seems to be the theme in blog posts and videos lately, but it's Mike McDermott noticing Teddy KGB's Oreo tell. Again, one of the silliest moments, silliest things in the entire movie. But and as he says, when you notice a guy's tell, you the last thing you want to do is tell him about it. You want to just use that to start beating him up. I'm going to go ahead and bet here. The fact that he checked back on that ace high board, it's a pretty wet board, obviously. So we're not putting a whole lot of money in there. But when he does not fire on the flop, continuation bet on the flop in position, a lot of times they're just giving up. So I'm going to go ahead and take a stab, see if I can, you know, yeah, I've got some equity in that hand for sure, but you know, more than anything, I'm basically trying to realize that equity rather than keep him sticking around or anything like that. It's kind of a semi bluff, for lack of a better word. But in any case, when you spot an opponent's tell, whether it's them opening an Oreo and looking at it or eating it. The looking at it and putting it back means that they missed, and evidently if they eat the Oreo, then that means they've got a strong hand.
Should have paid me off on that. The fuck did you lay that down?
Not hungry?
Mr. Son of a Bitch, let's play some cards.
Seriously, when you spot a person's tell, a bet sizing tell, man, it's like printing money against them. It's you know exactly where you stand in the hand against them based on how big they're betting. And that's the name of the game. Remember, poker is a game of incomplete information. The analogy you'll often hear about or read about, or the counterpoint to poker, is a game of chess, where it's a skill game, and it's a thinking man's game, thinking person's game. Sorry if you're of the female persuasion, but it's it's a battle of skill. And the difference though between chess and okay, so 260 against a $23 effective stack size. I'm not quite getting enough to set mine. Almost. 15 to 1 is the right number. I'm going to go ahead and sit out and fold this hand and see if this guy, see if he calls here. We would have picked up the gut shot. In a sense, that's neither here nor there, but I'm curious what this guy is three-betting so strongly with. Probably, an overpair right now. Ace-king easily. So anyway, it's not going to show. Chess is a game of complete information. I know exactly where all the pieces on the board are, mine and yours, and I know exactly what you're doing. When you move a piece, I see exactly what you're doing. If I'm smart enough in chess, and I've got enough experience, I can actually look ahead and see where you're going with the hand, or deduce where you're going with the hand. But the instantaneous game state, what both of us have, and the positions of our players, our pieces, and as well as the history of what's been happening and how you've been moving your pieces all along, is known to both of us. So that's a game of complete information. In contrast, poker, clearly, obviously, is a game of incomplete information. I don't know what you have in your hand. I don't know really what you've been doing in the last, 100 hands that we've played together. I've seen you bet and raise and fold and those kinds, and occasionally I've seen you show down hands. But hands that you don't show down, whether you fold in the sense losing the hand, or you fold after winning and you don't, everybody else folds their hand and you don't have to show yours. In both of those situations, I don't see your hand. So there's a lot of information about how you play and the state of the game and the history of the game that I don't know. So it's a game of incomplete information. And so therefore, one of the keys to winning at poker is paying attention. It's in fact, I think, commandment number 4 of the 10 commandments of winning poker. Thou shalt pay attention. And what I mean by that is you need to pay attention to what the other players are doing, because information is guarded and hidden so frequently and often, and you're making at best educated guesses as to what to do in poker hands. Anytime you can pick up little tidbits of information that help fill in those holes of missing data and missing information, it just moves you that much farther up in the battle of edges, a battle against your opponents. If you know your opponent's what his bet sizes mean in general, and he doesn't know what yours mean, you have an advantage over him. And over the long run, you can exploit that advantage and make a lot of money from him, because you can make better informed decisions.
The rule is this. You spot a man's tell, you don't say a fucking word. I finally spotted KGB's, and usually I'd have let him go on chewing those Oreos till he was dead broke. But I don't have that kind of time.
And that's what poker's all about. Poker's about making the best decision you can. And then, of course, obviously executing it in a way that you don't give away your intentions. But to make those best decisions, to make those really, ideal, best plus EV decisions in poker, you have to gather information and then really use it to analyze where you stand in the hand. And so clearly the first step in that, in making those decisions, is that gathering of information. So you've got to pay attention. You've got to look at everything from stack sizes. This guy's got $46 in his stack. We're at a $25 zone table. What does that mean? Well, again, we're at zone, so it's, that guy's fast folding. We're, not going to see him for another couple of orbits or something. But if we're at a regular cash game or a tournament or a sit and go or anything like that, you can start to discern things. Well, okay, he's chipping up. I don't see him, he didn't get that 46 with one big hand. Instead, I've seen him add $5 here, $6 there over the course of, 40, 50 hands. So he's a grinder. He's just, I'm guessing he's a reg. I'm assuming he's a regular, amateur pro. Here's a guy with $200. Okay, what does that mean? Here's a guy with, all of these are relatively big stacks. Here's a guy with $20 in his stack. Did he buy in for 25 and has just been dribbling away and doesn't know enough to rebuy? There's a lot of questions there that if you pay attention, you can start filling in those missing puzzle pieces. And that's going to help you make better decisions about against playing against each of the players that you go up against. So lesson here, commandment number 4, thou shalt pay attention. Yeah, you have to actually take the time. I talk a lot about something called the red eye system: read, estimate, decide, implement. If you read my blog, but it's a little more complicated than that. There's actually maybe 6 steps. The first step before you can read and put an opponent on a hand is the observation, is the paying attention. So you have to pay attention. Then you have to take that information and put it into a read on your opponent, where you're putting him on a range. And a line, ultimately, as you get into higher levels of poker. It's not only do you have to decide what range of hands he's on, but also what he's trying to do with that range of hands. But you have to observe. You have to put your opponent on a range. Then you have to apply the math to that hand range read. You have to say, what is my equity, my pot equity of my hand against that range? And what is my fold equity against that range and the intentions of that opponent? Now, some of you might think that king queen fold there is pretty weak, and I could argue at a 6-max table maybe a 3-bet's appropriate. But again, I'm not. I tend to err on the side of caution is the better part of valor. I see an early position open from a good player, or somebody's got a decent sized stack, so I'm assuming he's a good player. I'm just not going to battle. I'm just going to move on to the next hand at his own game. So you have to apply the math to your reads. He could easily have an ace here or a club draw, so I'm not going to let him see another card for free. Queen just got there, and so I'm going to check behind. Yeah, that's just unfortunate. So you got to apply the math and determine how much pot equity and fold equity you have. And using that, then those two factors, that's the bulk of the decision-making input that you need to make a decision in poker. If you know that your hand is strong against your opponent, but he's likely, very strong against the opponent, but he's very likely to. This guy limped, so I'm going to go ahead and just c-bet and see if I can get him come along with a pair of 10s or 9s or whatever, something like that. If you know those two things, your pot equity and fold equity, and getting back to that point, you can make very good decisions. You can say, okay, let's say you've got no pot equity, but very high fold equity. In other words, your hand is extremely weak or is just nothing, complete error, but you have very high fold equity because you're putting your opponent on a weak hand and a weak line. In that case, a bluff bet is what you want to do, right? It's you want to take down the pot. You want to get the other guy to fold a better hand. Conversely, if you've got high pot equity, meaning your hand has relatively high strength, and you've got low fold equity, meaning he's not likely to fold his hand to a bet, well then by all means bet and bet large because he's not going to fold and you've got the best hand, so you want to build value in the pot. If you've got, okay, we're going to go ahead and fire the king queen off here. If you've got high pot equity but also high fold equity, meaning let's say you've got the nuts. That's the ultimate in high pot equity, right? You've got ace-ace on an ace-ace 4 board or something like that. You've got quad aces. And you raise pre-flop. Okay, we've got a gut shot here and middle pair. I'm going to go ahead and fire for value. And, you've got a very strong hand, but any bet you make, because you raise pre-flop and the guy called, he's likely to put you on aces, and he's thinking you got trip aces. In reality, you've got quad aces in that particular case, or you've got a tremendous fold equity. In that case, that's one of those situations where actually betting is the wrong play because you've got a super strong hand, but any bet you put out there is going to get the guy to fold. So in that particular case, high pot equity, high fold equity, slow playing at least one street is the way to go. Now you can't let that go too long because you got to build a pot and all that good stuff. But if you think about, we got top and bottom here. We're going to go ahead and fire for value. That's a pretty dry board, and we're somebody's going to come along pretty weak. We just picked up a ton more equity with our flush draw. We're going to keep firing here. We probably have the best hand, most likely. He could, if he's got ace-5, God bless him here. The fact that he checked to us means he doesn't, so I'm going to actually bet a little small and try to get him to come along. Okay, so here's a situation where I've got high pot equity. I've got 2 pair on a pretty dry board. And unfortunately, a moderate amount of fold equity on the river. So, he can't continue without 2 pair or better, so unless I give him great price to call there. And that's why you bet small, or I was betting small on the river there. So anyway, those 2 factors, pot equity and fold equity, they're at the heart of making good decisions in poker. You don't raise aces on the button pre-flop when it folds to you because you're supposed to, or because you saw somebody do it in a book, or because you watched a video and you saw somebody do it there, or you saw me do it here. You don't raise aces because you're quote unquote, that's the standard thing to do. You do it for a reason. And in the case of aces on the button when it folds to you, is you're raising for value. You have, by definition, the best possible starting hand. You're raising because you have the best hand. You have a very high pot equity. Now, if you know more about your opponents, their folding tendencies and things like that, you can vary your bet size a little bit, perhaps. Okay, we've got, this is a weird little fire into us. I'm going to go ahead. I have the best hand here, almost certainly, unless he's got something like Queen 8 or a set. The fact that he just re-raised means he could easily have a set. I'm essentially slowing down here. I'm worried he's got a pair of 4s in his hand, a pair of 8s, or something weird like Queen 8. I can't put any more money into this hand because I just don't know where I'm at. I may have folded the best hand there, but that's okay, guys. Remember, folding is 0 EV. Anyway, getting back to why I'm raising aces, I'm raising them for value on the button. That's the reason. I've made the decision, the clear decision why I'm opening that hand. Conversely, if I've got 7 deuce on the button and it folds to me, I've got nothing in my hand. I've got one of the weakest possible hands. Okay, I'm worried about there's lots of draws on this particular board, so I'm not going to screw around. And if this guy folds on us, then that's the way it's going to be. But there's all kinds of draws, diamonds, straight draws. I probably have the best hand, but I don't want to let him catch up. So I've got to, here we go. Let's see what he's got. Great. And that's how you get paid off. 7 deuce on the button. It folds to me. I know my opponents are weak type players. That means I've got a lot of fold equity in general, very low pot equity. So raising there, the reason that I open the 7 deuce in that particular case is as a bluff. I know why I'm betting, and this is many students that come to me that I coach. Well, not many, but a significant fraction of them, of even intermediate players, but a lot of beginning players, really struggle with this. They wonder, they're making actions, they're opening hands, they're doing lots of things at the poker table without knowing the why. And that's that decision thing. And again, to make that decision, you've got to actually have information and have processed that information well. Next big blind, I'm going to click the sit out the next big blind button and then call this a wrap. But okay, he re-raises. He's giving us really good odds, but he's pretty short. I'm going to let it go. Okay, so now I'm going to click the sit out the next big blind, and that gives us the maximum number of hands that we're paying for here with this 25-cent big blind buy-in. So again, a number of students that come to me, this is often something we work at. It's, why are you opening this hand? Why are you calling this hand? And a lot of times the answer is, I don't know, or because this is what you do in this situation, right? Or this is the conventional play. And when you're first getting started, that's fine to sort of monkey see, monkey do. Watch what good players do and sort of try to emulate them. This is why I'm an opponent of starting hand charts for beginners, because it's sort of a bootstrap to your game. Here's sort of the basic good hands to play, and there's real reason to play these in these particular, open these hands, because Le Monsieur and I did the math and figured out, these are, from an expected value point of view, against a random set of hands your opponent has, these are the hands that you want to open in each of the particular seats. And that's fine when you're first starting, but once you start to progress into a better player and you want to move up and be more profitable, you have to then kind of put the starting hand charts aside and the conventional, quote-unquote, conventional wisdom aside, and play a more thinking man's game. Very dry board here, hard for him to continue without, diamonds or maybe a pair. If he's a thinking player, which I don't think he is, because he's pretty short. Unfortunately, the diamonds just got there. If he was on or the spades just got there. So there's no value in me betting again. And, any spade, he's got the deuce of spades in his hand. We're done. And we'll let it go. So, you have to give up the starting hand charts and things like that, and start asking yourself, well, why am I opening this 10-9 here? Well, it's a semi-bluff that errs on the side of bluff. It's got some equity and some improvement possibility here, but I'm really opening to steal the blinds from the cutoff. I got repopped, so why would I call here? Maybe because I think I'm getting enough implied odds to call. He's pretty short. I'm not for a non-suited connector. to make that call. So I'm folding because I don't have enough pot equity to continue. I'm going to raise the ace-queen off from under the gun. Anyway, poker's a game of incomplete information, and he who gathers the most information and then processes it properly to make their decisions is the guy that comes out on head. And this, it all fundamentally starts with the idea of asking yourself why. Ace queen here, I'm going to be out of position. He's representing strength multi-way there. Too easy, I have a trap hand. This guy is tiny stacked. I might consider re-raising and isolating and just playing him heads up, maybe. In this case, this guy just re-raised, so we're done. We're clearly done with this hand. You got to ask the question, why? Why am I opening? Why am I betting? Why am I raising? Why am I consider calling? And if you can't answer that question with a real reason, not just, hey, this is what people do, this is the standard play in this particular situation, then you shouldn't be making that play. And again, poker should not be very hard, but it does, it's not rocket science by any manner of means, but it is a thinking game, and you have to think. You can't just play on autopilot and go click, click, click. I've got king jack suited on the button and it folds to me, I'm supposed to open raise. Well, not if the opponents are super laggy in the button and are maniacs and or in the blinds are super maniacs and they're going to re-raise you. No, that's not what you're supposed to do necessarily. Maybe it is. I don't know. The point though is you actually have to think that through. You got to expend the mental energy to make those that process of paying attention, making your reads, applying the math. In other words, determining how much pot equity and fold equity and pot commitment you have, then making a decision based on that, and ultimately then executing that decision in the most deceptive way you can that maximizes your expected value. Anyway, poker's a game of incomplete information. It's up to you to gather as much of that missing information you can to make the best decisions you can. And if you're not doing that, then you're not playing good poker, and you're probably never going to be a winner. If you do that, then you're one step up above the vast majority of opponents you play at micro and small stakes, because a lot of them are playing robotic, autoplay kind of poker, autopilot poker, where they've got aces in a certain position and they always raise those aces in that position. So hopefully you're not doing that. Hopefully you're gathering information. And that's about it. That's all I got for today. Anyway, thanks for joining us. I appreciate it. Leave us a comment, subscribe, hit the like button, all that good stuff. You know what to do. It helps. In any case, good skill. And I'll see you on the virtual felt. Tschüss.